Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Not to rip off John Oliver, but welcome, welcome, welcome to this week's episode of Making Light, Two Humans Being. As you can see, Kate Foggo is already here. I am too. I'm Julie Hirt. We're so excited today to talk about celebrating ourselves. Not something that we typically do, but we started having a conversation about something completely different. And we're like, you know what? Kate particularly is in a really good spot. So we're gonna talk about celebrating ourselves. So Kate, do you want to fill us in?
Yeah, I think I mentioned last week, didn't I, that I was going to take some time to just back off a little bit and spend some time on self-love. Don't really know. Again, I can't believe it's already been a week. And I'm trying to think of the time that I've spent not doing stuff, but I can still think of all the things I have been doing, but I am at least embracing the idea of backing off, and I have been, and I am enjoying it, apart from the fact it's cold. But other than that, because it's cold down here in the I call it the garage because it used to be the garage. It's not the garage anymore. Obviously, it's a beautiful studio, but it is quite cold down here. But before we start, Julie, I just want to say, because my beautiful sister Stella, thank you very much. Hello, Stella, sent me some amazing cards. I'm not promoting any particular card, but they are absolutely gorgeous. So these are Colette Baron Reid, and I did her vision board, which, as I was saying to Julie earlier, is somewhere in a pile somewhere. So obviously not really helping because I can't say. But my sister sent me, she said, I've sent you a little something for your birthday, but she couldn't remember if she'd actually sent them to me before. She'd obviously thought about it before. And I have actually always wanted some cards, and I have never bought them. And I had looked at these when I'd done the vision board with Colette, and what stopped me was my poverty mindset, because they're not cheap. So I'm delighted that my sister sent them to me. So yesterday, also I unwrapped them, I looked at them, they're just gorgeous. They're just so beautifully. Oh, I've got more wrong way up. Oh, that was one maroon. They're just beautiful.
Sweet.
They're just amazing. And so I pulled one for myself yesterday. And I said, what do I need to know? Because something else that came up in book club, if you remember, with Sally. So our friend Sally has just published a book. We'll put it in the things below. And we're actually having a book club with the author. Get us? Yeah. And she had said, we were asking questions because she's very close to spirit guides, and I was saying how sometimes the answers I get with muscle testing, really more than with spirit guides, seem to change as my opinion of something changes in that. But I feel like there's more information involved. But 2 points for anyone who does these things: number one, be really clear on your question, because you can phrase things in a lot of different ways, and it's only when you start getting a conflict and you go, I've got that, and yet that doesn't make sense, you realize that actually your interpretation. So be really clear. And by that I don't just mean the wording, because sorry, this is turning into a lecture, but let's do it anyway. I don't just mean the wording. A lot of us who are really confident with muscle testing tend to just flick it off. It's not just the wording, though words are important, as Julie knows. You've actually got to be clear on what you're asking, because sometimes we ask and we're just not really clear what we're asking, and that's when you get inconsistencies. Anyway, so that was number one, is be really clear what you're asking, and also about the words, but also your intention needs to be clear. It's not just about the words. You need to be clear what you're actually asking. And the other thing she said is, well, when you're asking about stuff like that, make sure you ask right now, because things change. What is right for you right now? So I had a friend that always used to talk about no such thing as Mr. Right, just Mr. Right now. Very clever. Yeah. And that's true of all things. Something may be good for you right now, and it may not be good for you tomorrow. And that's another reason we get consistencies. We just seem to think that there's one right answer and that's it. And it isn't. It all changes a lot of other things. Anyway, so I did ask the question very proudly with myself. I said, what is for my greatest and highest good right now? And look what I got, Julie.
Snake spirit, time to heal.
So, and that's the first time I have pulled a card for myself. I would probably say ever, because I don't think I've ever had oracle cards. I have had tarot cards, but they're not quite the same.
So that was yesterday. So is there a corresponding book with this deck?
There is just a little book, so you can do 1 or 2 different types of readings, and that they're quite straightforward. It's just a little book that explains what they all are and everything like that. And really, Time to Heal was actually what you think it would be, and that is that you need to consolidate the healing that you've done, and that you need downtime, and that you need this. So given that I sort of, when I am spending more time doing other stuff, but as you know, there's always things that come up, and I get all my worth from performing for either myself or other people. I have actually written down, but we can come on to that later. I did actually write down 4 things that occurred to me as I was doing. I thought, well, yeah, maybe I'm getting the hang of this stuff. Right.
Yeah.
But before we go any further, would you like me to pull you a card, or should we? Okay.
Yes.
So if we do a single card one, really, you're just asking a question. So if you'd like to phrase your question, which for anyone watching who wants to do this, you just ask your question. You can make it as general. Well, specific's quite nice, but don't make it a yes, no.
Yeah. No, I would just do greatest and highest good for today. What do I need to know for the greatest and highest good for today?
So what does Julie need to know for the greatest and highest good today? These are quite big and clumsy, but actually there's a real...
My angel cards are the same way, but yeah, I use angel tarot cards, and I have an animal card, but then you keep going.
Oh my God, this is what my sister got.
Ooh, peacock spirit. What is it? Let it shine. Let's celebrate ourselves.
You see, yes, because that's our, yeah, right, 46. I'll do this really quickly. I'll just skip through it if it's obvious. Yes, you do get a little book with it. When is the last time you shook a tail? When's the last time you shook a tail feather and shined your light for all to see? Within each of us is a peacock spirit yearning for expression. You're being called to show the world the gorgeous creature you are, for you are a manifestation of spirit. Come out from the shadow. Peacock spirit says, show your true colors that others may be inspired to express their own exquisiteness. I love the word exquisite.
I do too.
Dance as if you remember that you are made of stardust and grace, filled with the life force of energy and sparkling light. You are a channel for divine love. Your dance is one of a kind. Catch the light and help it shimmer, and dance in celebration of your good fortune to being right here, right now. Spirit wants you to be joyful so others may get up and dance along with you. Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
That's really cool. I love the word exquisite too. There's a whole...
I do, and I think it's a very nice way to describe us and what we do in a way, because it's so much more than, exquisite can describe colors, but when you apply it to a way of thinking, or it's just a word that I like it anyway.
Maybe we need to call this show Making Light Being Exquisite.
Oh, well, celebrating our exquisiteness.
Very RuPaul, if you think about it.
Yeah. And actually, I was thinking of Cheddar Gorgeous when I heard the word exquisite, who is just a queen. Never mind. So,
can I say one thing quickly before you? So I subscribe to the Chani Nicholas app, which is your horoscope, and my horoscope today. Let's see but it can channel this excitement and play with the opposing facets of yourself as well. Craft an outfit that represents a submerged aspect of your personality, or express your multitudes with a dynamic art project. And there's a little bit more, but it's all about kind of that type of cool.
It's just incredible how things weave together. Like that, that's my first ever card that I've pulled, and it does immediately, without even having to look up what the card means, is reinforcing the fact that I am doing the right thing, because there is still such a hesitation. Not a hesitation, I know I need to work on my self-love, but a lot of that for me is working, and that has to stop. And then I get stuck with going, well, how am I going to further my self-love if I'm not putting the time in? It's like I'm one of these people, I have to keep putting the pennies in, otherwise I'm not, and I that's the mind shit I need to shift. That's the mind shit I need to shift. Yes, that's the mind shit, basically. But that's exactly it. And it's almost like I'm realizing that even just these little observations of what's happening are all going to help. May not, anyway. So as I said to someone else, asked me again in 3 months, I was talking to my friend Louise about this, I won't know what I have achieved or otherwise, really, but I would, things do change. Anyway, that said, we were going to talk about celebrating our uniqueness, exquisiteness, celebrating ourselves in general. And what had started this conversation was the word authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Why did I read it? We were reading about it. Well, should we preview?
Mm-hmm.
I think we should.
Yeah,
Do you
I think
do that?
Sure. So the reason why we were talking about the word authentic is because our wonderful teacher, Danielle McKinnon, is going to join us on Making Light Two Humans Being in a week or two. So watch for that episode. But what we're thinking we're going to talk with her about is living authentically. Even though Kate and I aren't particularly fond of the word, just because to some degree it's been hijacked, bastardized. And I don't think Danielle is keen on it either, which I think will be part of the conversation. I don't think, but we'll have to come back to that with her, because I don't want to speak for her. But anyway, so just FYI, Danielle's going to be on the show. We're super, super excited, just because we just think she's awesome. And
it's going to be so weird, isn't it? Because I feel like we're the groupies, really. So, and, here we are, suddenly we're the grown-ups and we've got a guest on our show. It's like the first time you drive a car and you're like, oh my God, I'm a grown-up. Driving is still, for me, the most grown-up thing that I've ever done. But yeah, so that's really exciting. But living authentic.
Coming back to authentically. Sorry, there you go.
Yeah. So I was listening to a podcast my sister sent me, and stop me if I've told you this. I have no concept of time at the moment. Peter Crouch, have I talked to you?
Oh yeah, you did mention him last week, I think.
And did I tell you that the lady who was doing the podcast was just talking about living authentically, that she was the most authentic person she knew, and I was like, it's like, what does that mean? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
I in the sense that I understand if someone is inauthentic. I understand that people, and let's not diss them for it, but people who are all wrapped up in the material world and their appearances of how they are perceived by other people, of how successful they are in terms of material possessions and stuff like that. I'm not going to suggest that's living inauthentically, but I think that's what we would generally perceive as being living inauthentically. Is not really understanding the value of who you are. But I don't know that we actually have the right to even say that. I think for me, living inauthentically is not recognizing or not showing the world who you are.
Yeah.
Is that what you think?
I agree with that, and I would add, to me, there is an element of connectivity in that I need not only to understand the divine or the uniqueness, the exquisiteness in me, or that I'm exquisite, but I would argue that I would also say that I need to see it in you and everyone else. If I look at someone else and I don't see that hint of exquisiteness, because this is now our new favorite word, right? The divine, or however you want to say it, and I judge, disparage, take somebody down, that to me denies the exquisiteness in me and the divine in me, because we are all of the divine. And this includes animals too, and trees, and all of it.
But how does that tie back to authenticity? I'm going to make you make that connection.
Oh, you're going to tie that back to authenticity. I don't think I can truly be authentic to who I am if I deny it in you. Because it's like the idea of, we're not, like, there's this idea from a social justice or human rights perspective that none of us are free until all of us are free. It's the same type of a thing. If I can't look at you, Kate, and say, I love you regardless of whatever you made, whatever trespasses, who cares, right? Whatever, because I still see the light in you, I still see you, then I'm not really technically capable of seeing it in me.
I agree, but that's a very lofty goal.
Well, that's where we're growing. That's why we're all here having this human experience. is to try to get us to that lofty goal. So
on a day-to-day level,
yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong, I that's what we're all after, that's what we're heading for. But on a day-to-day, how do you live
authentically? How do you live authentically?
Yeah.
On a day-to-day level?
Because I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but for me, that's the goal, but that is out of my reach. I mean, I can barely see my own light, never mind other people's.
Well, yeah, and
I can see the easy ones. There's obviously easy wins, but that's not what this is about. This is about seeing it in everybody.
Right. I know. You don't have to like succeed today. It's the whole entire journey, and you may not succeed in this lifetime. It might be,
Oh God, don't say that. I'm not doing this again, Julie.
It's all we can do is try. All we can do is try. We're not going to get it. What Abraham Hicks says, the work is never done, right? So
yes,
yeah,
yes,
and
yes,
all we need
yes, and yes.
What?
And that's actually that'd be day 5 of my. I've started writing on the back of things, which is a really bad idea because now I can never find anything. You know what? When I was more wasteful, I was more efficient. Day 1, recognizing the Russian chain. Day 2, day 3. So day 5, what did you just say? I'm just so busy looking for my stuff. I've forgotten what that
we don't know. Work will never be done. So to me, like, I didn't even know about this idea of seeing the light in everyone else until I did A Course in Miracles with Marianne Williamson. I never get her last name right.
Williamson.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure it's Williamson.
For the longest time, I called her Richardson. I remember we read a book in book club of hers. I could not get her last name. And because I actually admire her. Anyway, but that's part of A Course in Miracles is.
But that's the end. I mean, that's the end goal, Julie, because that is unconditional love.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah. But doesn't mean I can't strive for it every day.
No, I know, but it's I don't think it's not something you can just turn on, is it?
No. Especially in certain periods of time of political discourse. For me, because that's yeah.
And there are obviously, as I say, there are people it's easier, when you look at because this is probably week 2. Earlier this week, had I seen friends? Had I actually seen friends in flesh last time we spoke?
I think so, because it was the first time in a long time and you really enjoyed it. Yeah.
And I am going to, so when I went on my retreat last time, it was not as wonderful experience as it has been in the past. Right. But there was 2 wonderful things that happened in that retreat. One is my friend Louise, who I do weekly sessions with, obviously spending time with her and going to and we went swimming nude in the loch every morning in the mist. And the other was, I wanted to say prison cellmate almost, Louisa, who was the lady I met, who has actually done all sorts of incredible things. I'll put it down here. She's the existential biker. Well, the way we were talking, the way she was referring to herself, I was thinking, am I supposed to know who you are? Like, I just knew that she was somebody more than just Louise. It turns out she's the women's land record, whatever, fastest woman on land or something like that. So she sort of changed her life, but she not gave up her job, she retired and then took on this a new life, and she does all these amazing things. And she started motorbike riding and I'm apologies Louise if I fucked all this up, but basically you can look her up. But we have sort of been in touch, emailing each other just a couple of times, time flies and that, and I was like, fuck it, we'll just and I'm going to see her.
Wow.
I know, like day after tomorrow. Where am I going with this? This was I was going somewhere. This is to do with living authentically. Anyway, on the retreat, because she was really funny on a retreat. She's just I think that's it. It's like when you meet people that you gel with, or like you and I, when we met and we started talking and stuff like that, it's like I can't not see your light, Julie.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like when you meet people and you have that connection with them, all you can see is their light. And you know, when I hear you not honoring your light, and likewise of the people that I love, and I less so husbands, obviously there's a lot of complications there, but when you look at your friends where there are no other emotional complications, and I see you not honoring your light, or not celebrating your own light, you know, like it's like like how can you not see how wonderful you are? So in that sense, I think that's where I was going. In that sense, it's so easy to see it with people who you admire or you have a connection with. That's so easy to see their light. But to see it in ordinary other people who you don't have that connection with, and beyond that, people who push your buttons, you know, that's the challenge.
It's so interesting you just brought up when you don't see my light, like how your reaction is, because I was thinking just before you said it, like the guides kind of popped in too a little bit, and there was something else that they'd shared with me, but I forgot it anyway. But when I don't see when I see you not seeing your own light, like for me, I get really frustrated, because I'm like, Kate, how can you not see? Oh, I mean, like, look at that smile. Like, how can you not see how exciting and wonderful and smart and wise and deep and profound and empathetic? Like, how can you not see that? And I get frustrated. Like, come on, like, we got to go. So maybe something to think about, not just you, but everybody, is when you're feeling like you don't feel like you can see your own light, or you feel like your candle's getting snuffed out. I guess I feel like they're showing me a candle going, you know, then to me, that's where the connectivity with others becomes even more important. And like like if you can't celebrate yourself, the royal you, if we can't celebrate ourselves, we need to feel comfortable to reach out to others and say, I need
you to show me my light.
Yeah. And then the responsibility though is on me to believe you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But and this is and I think, I don't know if it's COVID or if it's just me, and I don't know what other people are doing, because obviously, you know, in the old days I used to go to work, and I suppose I had some friends there. Yeah. Stuff done. But not seeing people, I just find that I have become really isolated intentionally. There's nobody to blame but myself. But I think a lot of people have found this after COVID, post-COVID, is now people, we used to have regular meetings, and if we couldn't make it, we would always rearrange. And now if people go, oh, I can't make it, we tend not to reschedule, you know, or, you know, not, I don't want to see you. It's not that, it just doesn't happen. And seeing people again, it's like, why have I been suffering in all my darkness when I sit with these people and they fill me with love, and they, you know, these are the people I can look at if I ever need to really understand what unconditional love, I mean, I know it's not totally unconditional, but along the lines of when I sit here and go, oh, I've never been loved for who I am, because it's all about what I produce. For my mother, it was what I could do for her to some degree. My husband, we have an agreement, we have a marriage and a relationship agreement that requires nurturing. It's not just about, I can't just sit in my room and go, but aren't I fucking marvelous, and why don't you love me? I actually have to sort of contribute. Whereas with your friends, although I understand there is a level of nurturing that goes with that, obviously a give and take and stuff like that. Like my friend Cara looked at me and she said, well, that's not true of us, is it? And it's like, no, because, you know, I don't have a marriage agreement with them. I don't have to take care of them. I don't have to do the housework. I don't have to, you know, they love me and want to be with me because they enjoy my company. And that's it. There's no hidden agenda anywhere. And you're like, why don't I spend more time with people like this? But all that said is, well, I was going to go back to the living authentically, but actually with the celebration is, we should spend time with people who celebrate us as well, because it's so much easier to love yourself when everyone else loves you.
Yeah, that's so true. Because fine, and that's so Thanksgiving, we just had the Thanksgiving holiday here in the United States, and we spent it with Brad's sister and her husband and her 2 kids and 2 dogs and a cat. And Lucas came along. Oh, it's, even though we to some degree, we don't, there's some places where our beliefs differ slightly, but that's not what we talk about. We talk about we've talked nonstop from the moment we got there on Thursday, late, like really early afternoon, until we left on Saturday morning. We talked nonstop, and we could have continued talking. That's the joy. And it's just such an easy place to be. And even though we don't always agree on some things, but they're not the things that are important, really. It's so wonderful. Like how Stella, your sister, gave you the Oracle deck. Like, even though I know that my sister-in-law may not subscribe, she's a huge animal lover, but I don't know if she would ever have an animal communication reading. I don't know if she would ever do an intuitive coaching session with spirit guides, but that doesn't matter. She can still ask me questions, and I feel like we're just having a conversation about it. It's just so easy. And she said, we need to get together. They're about 3.5 hours away. We really need to get together more. And I'm like, yes, we do. I need to spend more time here than in many other places where I spend my time. And I am finding that as I get older, it's like, oh, I should say this too. When I was in Alaska, like, here's another example. When I was in Alaska, I made sure this time to see different friends that I didn't get to see when I went in October for a meeting. No, when I went in May for meetings. This time in October, I made some special time. And there were a couple people that I met that I was thinking, we didn't really have anything to say. We no longer all work together. And our focal point was how we didn't like our workplace, in particular, how we didn't like our boss. So that fell away. I don't want to talk about that anymore. I don't really want to even understand what's going on at our former place of work. There was no interest in what I was doing. And some of the interest that they had was there's some pettiness to it. The interest that they wanted to talk about and what's going on with their life, that was so petty that I'm like, that doesn't interest me anymore. And so some of these relationships will fall.
Isn't that a wonderful marker of growth? Because you suddenly realize you wouldn't have noticed that perhaps a year ago. No. That's a really good reminder, Julie, because when you can hear I don't mean to be disparaging, but as you say, the pettiness or the complaining that other people do, and you think, I would have joined in, and actually now this is uncomfortable for me and I don't want to put my attention there. When I went up to Mull a few years ago, I don't know if it's since I met you, must have been pre-COVID, so probably not. Went up with my friend Cara and met up with some people I knew a long time ago. For a long time, they were, he was my boss in the pub. He and his wife were Cara's best friends. Probably shouldn't name them, but anyway, so we met up, and I met somebody else there who I had known from that time. So I haven't seen them since I was 18. I was a bit older than that, I mean early 20s, 20, 21, 22, whatever. So I haven't seen them for like 30 years. And one of them was someone who I used to think was really cool, really spiritual. She was like really out there and very Earth Mother type. So I thought this would be really interesting to meet her now. Do you know, I don't think in the whole evening she ever asked me I don't think she knew whether I was married, whether I had any children. Like nothing. Now, we must have chatted for about an hour, and it didn't take me long into the conversation to realize, and in fact it did take me, it was actually my friend that came back. She said, in the whole night nobody's asked me anything about myself. These are people we haven't seen for, and yet you're thinking, well, okay, maybe it doesn't matter, maybe we shared this period of time with them that will never be revisited. It's like maybe it doesn't matter what we're doing now. but it just, and maybe they're right, but it's sort of like, well, I asked, yeah, actually, do you know what, that's another conversation. Maybe it doesn't matter, because it's just politeness from my perspective is, you know, hello, who are you, how are you, who do you live with, what are you doing with your life? Maybe that's just it. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. Strange.
No, I think it does matter. I do think it matters. I think because for me, there's the connection to yourself and feeling like, okay, we're figuring this out. It's okay. I got this. But there is that connection to other people. How do I can help you see your light, or I can even help you turn on your light sometimes just by that connection. And by me just asking you, how are you doing? What do you do? What is important to you? That's a big deal, I think. And we don't do that enough. And I think that's where some of this melee and discord take places, because we're so focused on not so much our inner selves, but we're so focused on these outer shell of blah, 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 whatever. And then we don't even take the time to take the next step and say, and who are you?
Yeah, and actually you've reminded me, because in the time that we were talking, I'm thinking, well, what the fuck were we talking about? Because we have nothing in common now, obviously. And then I realized we were talking about you. Like, we spent all night talking about you, and you not once asked me about myself.
Not even that doesn't even feel, that just doesn't even feel good. So,
and it was almost, but we just get taken along with it all. And it wasn't until my friend came back to me, she said, you realize well, she didn't say everybody, because obviously that wasn't everybody, but of this group of people that we had in common, she said, not one of them has asked me a single thing about myself. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. And suddenly you just think, you know what, we shouldn't be here. We don't, we have nothing in common. There's a reason why we grew apart, but it is a really good marker, as what you were saying, of how we change. Because I don't want to join in with people complaining about their spouses. And I mean, I have close friends and we'll have a bitch every now and then. We're all guilty of that, but not prolonged. And certainly not as the only topic of conversation, unless obviously there's something going on that requires attention.
But at least the recognition that you're in a conversation and that there's another light there with you, and who just a little curiosity about that light, to me, makes such a difference. No,
it's just so clear now, because I'm thinking of all that stuff about is how other people can snuff you out. I remember this from I was not aware that I was insecure, and I don't think I am generally in people. I'm not shy particularly. And I remember going, like, when I was in Turkey, my mum was living in Turkey, and I went out to see her, and I met this girl who, we were traveling somewhere, I can't remember, but she had got on a bus or not got on a bus and missed a bus or something. And my mum was very used to picking up, she says this, I don't remember this, but she said I was always picking up waifs and strays or whatever, and she was quite happy for me to bring people home and that. So I brought this girl home and said, she's supposed to be here and she's not here, is it all right if she stays? And fortunately, for all my mum's faults, my mother was very open about stuff like that. So we'd given her a lift somewhere, taken her, and it just so happened the people she was meeting is where we were staying. So my mum, we'd given her a lift there. She'd spent the night in the apartment with us, and she went and met her friends in the morning, and she was really obviously grateful to have been saved in the middle of the Turkish wilderness by an English family that just happened to be going in the right direction and had opened their homes to her and given her a lift and everything. So she wanted to meet up the next day, and for me to meet, because she was just about the same age as me, for me to meet these people. And I had gone along, and I at first I suppose I was quite intimidated by them, because they were just very laid back. They obviously belonged there. They were very cool, and I just felt myself go like this, and said not a word to anybody. They didn't acknowledge me. They didn't say, even though she had sort of brought me in and said, oh, this is Kate, Kate's mom gave me a lift, and all of that. And they were, they were rude, actually. They were just another English family who happened to live out there, but they were very cool and bohemian and all of that. And not a shred of interest in me. And I'm not used to feeling completely and utterly ignored. And I could feel myself shutting down. And suddenly I became this really, really dull, unwanted child in the playground. And you're like, at that time I was like in my 20s, and I'm like, how can other people make me feel like this?
Yeah.
How is this possible? So I guess the moral of the story is, it'd be great if they didn't, but if they do, get the fuck out of there. Don't let anybody, because you just sit there feeling smaller and smaller, and now you start to lose, you start to think it's you. It's not you, it's never you.
Right.
All that that's something that needs looking at.
Yeah. So that's another thing we should talk about, is how to,
if they're not celebrating you, get out of the room.
Yeah.
This is really weird. That was on my newsletter. It's Silky Ganache. I put her quote was that, wasn't it? It's not for me to, it's not for you, it's not for you to applaud, it's not for me to wait for your applause, it's for me to applaud myself, and you can join in.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah, I love her. I love Silky Nutmeg Ganache, her name is. I love her because she's the one that says, you can never be too loud or too obnoxious, or don't let anybody tell you that. And like, those words mean so much to me, because as a child I was always in trouble for being too loud and too obnoxious and too, and the fact that she's brave enough to say obnoxious, not just love, I was too loud and bubbly and fun, but actually to put that fear out there that we all feel that not only are we too much, but we're too much in a nasty way, not just too much flamboyance, but too much. So rambling, this is obviously ticking a lot of
I think that's actually a lot of buttons. I think with Silky, that's Silky Grenache. I love that. I think Grenache is actually a lovely wine too. I think that's a great place to end today's conversation. Go out with Silky.
Yeah, celebrating ourselves. So there's a lot of that coming up, and this has been very uplifting, Julie. Thank you. We should talk about this. This is the thing. Spend time with people who make you feel good, and if they don't make you feel good, that's not to say other people have the responsibility to make you feel good, but don't hang around with people that don't let you shine your light.
No, but also celebrate yourself. Like, I just noticed I was using my J mug today. Like,
I thought that was a barcode. Okay,
it's a J.
It's the exquisite Julie mug.
Yes.
So, I'm Kate Fogger. This is Julie Hurt. We are very much celebrating our humanness. We are making light to human beings, celebrating ourselves. So to all of you out there, thank you for watching, listening, whatever it is that you do. And please go out there and celebrate yourselves, because there's not enough of it. And that's our theme for today. Keep a lookout for upcoming things. We've got really exciting stuff happening with our teacher, Danielle. We'll be talking live. It's not really live, is it?
Well,
it'll be live
at the time. We'll see.
So we'll see more of that. If you have any comments, suggestions, anything really, put it in the comments below. You can also subscribe to us here. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. If you enjoy this show, please do share it. We're trying to get our subscriber base up, because we get a lot of feedback, not necessarily in comments and stuff like that, but we do get a lot of feedback that this is helping people and that people really enjoy it. So we really want to reach more people. So please do share with your friends or family or anyone who you think will enjoy it. Thank you very much. I'm Kate Fogger. This is Julie Hurt, and we are making light.